welcome to the Bottom Up Skills Podcast. I'm Mike Parsons. I'm the CEO of Qualitance. And boy, today we've got a whole new series. We've been to design thinking and agile, but today we start on a totally new chapter. We're going to do a multi-part series on the lean startup. And frankly, I'm quite the fan of the lean startup. So in this episode, I want to lay some context. I want to give you a little bit of background to lean. And what I'm going to hope to do is point out to you what really defines it as a great method to use when you're going out in the world to build a brand new product. All right, let's get into it. And the story starts with a gentleman called Eric Ries, who wrote the book, The Lean Startup. And I really want to share with you the most compelling part of his kind of founding story. And it all starts with failure. And that's why it's so interesting. He spent 5 years as a co-founder in a startup. They spent over $40 million in funding, and they built a product that nobody wanted to use. Now, for many of us, this is a bit of a heartbreaking, it's a bit of a gut-wrenching experience to have spent so much of your life building a product that it turned out that nobody really wanted. But being ever so stoic, Eric actually used it as an opportunity to kind of dig into the rapid process improvement universe and dig up this idea of lean and to really reinvent it through the eyes of a startup. And those startups are generally software-based and moving fast in the modern age. So I cannot tell you how powerful this is as a starting point, because he's literally written a playbook that has taken off. It is absolutely a global phenomenon now in anyone, so largely not only in the venturing world, but the product world, even in the enterprise world. You will find that not only are people trying to be agile, but they are trying to be lean as well. So I'm very excited to share with you what he put into the lean startup and how powerful it really is. Because he's effectively written the book he'd wish he had read at the start to avoid those 5 years and wasted $40 million. So let's look into the learnings from Eric Ries and the lean startup. So what is this thing? Okay. So it's a methodology. So the good news about methodologies is they tend to be step 1, step 2, step 3. They try to be repeatable. And that's certainly the case here with Lean Startup. And it's particularly good at building products. People use it for building businesses as well. And sure, that's fine. I think it stands alone as a great way to build product. And it needs to go hand in hand with many other practices. But I'm going to try and pick apart what it's very special at and where it contributes so much value. So as I said, it's a methodology for building products. And it's what's really important is we emphasize building the right product. It's very fast. It's a very iterative process. And it really strives to determine, is the product viable? And viability is a very important topic, because if we really go and ask ourselves, is something viable? We're saying, really, are the economics going to work out? Can we capture enough value? Now, to reinforce to you why I think this is so important, it's not that hard to build a product that users find desirable. But where it really becomes challenging is it technically feasible? And from a business model perspective, is it viable? And lean is so damn good at helping us work out, is this a product? And here's the key bit, is it worth building? This is really, really important nuance in this. Is it really worth building? Because I know I've personally made products that may have been either feasible or desirable, but that doesn't guarantee it's going to be viable, that there's going to be a good economic model, there's value is going to be created, customers are happy and willing to pay for the product or service. This is where lean helps. And what's so special and why I love lean startup so much is it's all about learning. It's all about this journey that is defined not by, do you have like this amazing idea, right? It's this total fairy tale that we're told that someone has an idea and then that makes them $1 gazillion. Lean startup acknowledges the hard truth. It's in the execution. And to take you back to Eric's story, he spent 5 years and $40 million learning that he didn't get the execution right. So if you learn along the way, you are way on track for getting execution right. And therefore, what's so great about the lean startup, it doesn't matter how little you know at the start. What really matters is your rate of learning. And that's why it's so damn important. So to frame this, before we move on to some of the important aspects of lean startup, this is a way to know if your product's going to make enough money. Is it truly worth doing? And this is essential because actually, the barriers to entry to building product have diminished. So there's a lot more products out there. There's also quite a lot of products that are no good, but that's a whole nother course and masterclass and discussion here on bottom-up skills. So let's have a look at some of the surrounding practices around lean that you may have heard of. Perhaps, you may have heard of lean manufacturing, which has a lot of heritage in Japan. Obviously, it intersects a lot with some of the agile practices at Toyota Motor Company. So, definitely check that out if you're interested in it. It also has another intersection with agile in terms of the practice of Kanban, which is really focused on feature-driven development, traditionally not very time-boxed. Now, another couple that you might have heard of is just-in-time manufacturing. This whole idea of trying to only consume the resources at the very end. And this is perfect because then you're not left with a whole lot of inventory just sitting around in a warehouse. So there's a lot of process improvement and agile connections with the lean startup. And if you're at all interested in any of those, just have a look at that greater world of the lean method. Beyond lean startup, what we're talking about, but go into the lean method and you will find a world of different methods and practices there. So let's come back to software because we talked for a moment then a little bit about manufacturing and some of the other related practices. Lean startup is largely and foremost for software. And prior to lean startup, the way a lot of software got built was using what we call the waterfall process. Now, waterfall created all sorts of nice structure and certainty, and people liked it a lot. You'd start with writing a requirements doc. What does it need to do? Then you write the specifications of, okay, this is how we think the software will do it. You design it, you implement it. And then once it's implemented, you do some testing before you launch it. Now, in this day and age, that's pretty crazy. And there was all sorts of bad habits that got related to the world of waterfall. First and foremost, people would write requirements that were, between you and me, they were largely just one big guess. And often, particularly in large organizations, because we have agreed the requirements and the specs, that's what we promised to the boss, we can't do anything different. So what would happen is you would literally build systems full of guesses and assumptions that when put in front of users failed terribly. So there was a real need to do it in a different way. And the single biggest thing that Lean Startup has done has taken testing from the end of the process and put it right at the start and then made it continuous. And the beauty of testing with users, validating all your assumptions and getting over some of the bias that you might have, is it actually, you know what? It de-risks things. It makes you more certain of building something that's actually worthwhile, that helps the user, that technically it's feasible. And you know what? Creates enough value that there's an economic model. It's really worth doing. And that's how Lean has totally turned Waterfall upside down. And you will hear a lot of organizations trying at the moment, as they are in the midst of digital transformation, being not only agile, but also using a lean methodology is essential to get it right. And I'll tell you why I think this all matters so much. I think lean startup exists in the world and has so many fans because fundamentally we're in a world, as Mark Andreessen said, is being eaten by software. It really is being eaten. And you know what? Software, it's hard to do. It's particularly hard to do really well. It's particularly hard because it's so broad, comprehensive. There's so much complexity, depth, interconnecting systems, interdependencies, interoperabilities. It is so complex. So you need to break it down into some small tests and to make your way through it in order to truly build something that works. And the great thing about Lean is it's all about don't write code unless you know it's worth writing. And that should be music to any developer's ideas. It should be music to a designer's ear. Hey, let's not think about features unless we know actually they're solving a problem. And that's really at the heart of what Lean Startup does. So if you're really interested in this, I want you to embrace the core Lean loop, which is you build something, you measure it, you learn, and then rinse and repeat, and away you go. And throughout that entire process, you keep testing good ideas, keep building good ideas. You will learn a bunch, and just celebrate. When things are not great, that's fine. You've learned something, and ask yourself, okay, what did we learn and what are we going to do next? And do that, and you will be on your way to succeeding with Lean Startup. All right, that's it for the first of our Lean Startup episodes. I hope you've really enjoyed this. If you would like to do any of our masterclasses on all of these new product practices, if you want to build your product development skills, head over to bottomup.io, where you can listen to the back catalog of the podcast. You can get a whole bunch of free masterclasses and hang out with hundreds and hundreds of other people who are mad keen product builders, designers, creators, and entrepreneurs. All right, that's it for this episode of the Bottom Up Skills podcast.